Tommy Reynolds has his gun out. He's pointing the gun, and all of a sudden, I see this woman.
They say it's on every single station. They're saying that Daddy died.
He said there was an accident and your father is no longer with us.
In real life, I'm not like that.
And the Mario test was disgusting.
One night I jumped out of a car doing 60 miles an hour because I was addicted.
Salute, Mob Tube.
Salute, YouTube. How is everybody doing tonight? I'm very excited about my guest tonight. As everybody knows, he has been in, I believe, 26 episodes of The Sopranos. He had a great character on there named Eugene Pontecorvo with an awesome storyline. He's been in many other things: Blue Bloods, Law and Order, American Gangster, The Irishman. So I'm very excited to have him on. Everybody hit the like button, please, and let's welcome Robert Funaro.
Hey,
hi,
Chris.
Robert. How you doing?
All right, Chris. How you doing? What's shaking, man?
Good, not much.
What's
I'm glad to see you.
Man? What's shaking, man? I'm trying to be cool. What's shaking? I think that's an old 70s thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, I want to thank you for coming on with me and joining us tonight.
Well, thank you for the pleasure of being on the Old Sicilian show.
Absolutely. All right, so I want to start off at the beginning. Obviously, I'd like to know your story from beginning to end. I did some research about you earlier today, and I heard that you were born in Coney Island. Is that correct?
Coney Island Hospital, circa 1959. You know, you got to make it a little cinematic. Circa 1959. Yes, Brighton Beach, Brighton 3rd Street. My grandma lived on Brighton 3rd, but we lived in Beach Haven, near Coney Island, a little bit further down from Coney, off the Bell Parkway. Not too far.
So you grew up in Brooklyn?
I grew up in Brooklyn until I was 11 years old. Bath Avenue, Bensonhurst, Bath Avenue boys. And then my father moved to Staten Island like many Brooklynites did. He bought a home for $26,000, which I'm in right now.
Wow.
God rest his soul. And so we've been over this in his home over 50 years. And the second half of my childhood was spent in Staten Island, where I got a chance to do a little bit more in terms of sports. Brooklyn was very crowded. So I got a chance to open up. My dad went to kind of semi-suburb. Back then, there was a lot of weeds and mosquitoes.
Yeah. Not anymore, though.
Mosquitoes, man.
So what can you tell us about your life basically between then and when you began your acting career?
Well, I mean, I got the bug acting from my uncle. He was a priest in Howard Beach, but basically lived most of his career and lived in Brooklyn. He became a Monsignor of Assumption Church in Brooklyn Heights, and he was in St. Athanasius in Bensonhurst. And then later on, he went to Our Lady Queen of Martyrs in Forest Hills. But to make a long story short story even longer, he raised money for Catholic charities and the churches that he was a priest in and then a Monsignor by putting up productions, play productions, musicals, Music Man, Hello Dolly. Got to be very good. He got some really professional people. It got to be really competitive at one time, and some of the composers would go to see the show. I got my bug going to those shows as a child, 8, 9, 10, 11 years old, set from 7 to about 11. He was putting a show up every year. And then of course, he did something like Catholic Charities. He became a major fundraiser doing these plays. So I spent my childhood in Brooklyn and, of course, Staten Island, regular neighborhood guys, kids doing regular things, but that's how I got the bug, basically, from my uncle, Monsignor Funaro, Joseph.
And then, did you study acting?
I went to Pace University. I wanted to be an accountant, and I wanted to drive a Jaguar, and I wanted to be cool. having those Giorgio Armani suits, with the little purse and everything, there's aftershave, But I started 3 months in, I was miserable. Maybe the first couple of weeks I was miserable. I remember taking my first accountant test and writing a poem on the accountant test, write some sort of stupid poem, because I just didn't get it. It wasn't for me. So I went to my mom and I spoke to her, and she was a little bit more, I was closer to her when it came to the arts and stuff like that, entertainment. My dad is basically a great man, very much like the dad from Bronx Tale, De Niro dad from Bronx Tale. He never wanted anything to do with any kind of wise guy stuff or anything, but that's another story. Anyway, I said to her, I'm really terrible. I hate this. And she said, well, what do you want to do? I said, well, they do have a drama program at Pace. She said, why don't you do that? So I switched over to drama, and that was it. I studied for 1 year, and then I left and came back later on to acting, studying at HB Studios with Herbert Berghoff and Earl Hyman of the Cosby Show and all the great plays that he did, and Berghoff. And I never worked with Uta Hagen, but I did work with some of the other great teachers there at HB Studio. And then later on graduated to the group theater. I did a play in New Jersey, Paul Savino. I was an understudy, and Born Yesterday. And then Paul gave us a chance to do a couple of performances. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. At HB, it was more scene study orientated, but it wasn't so much like the progression of what you should expect when you're doing a play, when you're really acting and you're using the ripsaw and everything, and you're really trying to build a house. So a friend of mine from the drama bookshop, God rest his soul, David Salmon, and many, many actors knew him. And the drama bookshop was a place that all the actors, and it still is, go to, maybe not as much now with COVID going on, to congregate and to talk shop and everything. I befriended him, and he suggested that I go to a group theater person. His name was Bobby Lewis, a great director and instructor, and actually taught in Yale, Meryl Streep, and some other great actors. I think Henry Winkler, Meryl Streep. Meryl Streep alone is just, so I was really great to work with him for 2 years and then understand acting a little bit better. So that's my trajectory, from Jaguar to Sopranos.
How about that?
Don't ask me how I got there. I don't know.
I bet you preferred the Sopranos, though, right?
Yeah, Sopranos was great. It's my first professional job.
That's what I was going to ask you. Was that, and how did you? I believe you performed with James Gandolfini before that, right?
Yes. 1 second.
Okay.
We did a play called A Streetcar Named Desire, and you may know that one.
Yeah.
And we toured Scandinavia, a 3-month tour. It was a big to-do. They did the same company and the same producer had did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest the year prior, and it was a great success. In Germany. So he set up a European tour of Finland, Norway, and Sweden. So, and it was a streetcar. And I auditioned, and James was there too, sweating, being Mitch, at the audition. He really was a great Mitch. And later on, I went to do it on Broadway, which proved that he really was a great Mitch with Alec Baldwin. And we auditioned and we got paid. It was really my first officially paying job for a dramatic, production. Got paid in Deutsche Marks, about 600, maybe a little bit more than $600 a week. It was good pay. And we got a lot of experience touring streetcar. The set kind of got dilapidated as we went along, but that's how we met. And we kind of kept in touch afterward. About 7 years later, a friend of mine befriended or went up to James at a party when Sopranos was in its second year, very successful. He said, if I was you, I'd get your friend Bobby Funaro a job on that Sopranos. And my friend Gordon Silver, because of him, really, I got my big break. And of course, with Jimmy also, he came to see me at Caroline's because my friend told him where I was working. He asked where I was working, and he came to Caroline's. He went around with Joe Fay, his driver, to a few comedy clubs that night. And I walked in, and there he was. Walked down because Caroline's is a professional comedy club I was managing at the time. And he was there, and he said, I can't promise you you're going to get the part, but I'm going to get you an audition if you like. Have you been acting? Oh, sure, James. I've been acting. I wasn't acting for 6-7 years. Maybe on and off auditions here and there. I never really gave up on it, But I told him a lie. He loved that, and then we're off to the races.
That's great. And was the original role you auditioned for, was that for Eugene Pontecorvo, or were they going to use you for something else?
No. I was going to be Ralph Cifaretto. I landed the role of Ralph Cifaretto, and we started shooting, and I think that David wasn't too happy. Chase wasn't too happy with the chemistry between me. And at first it started really good, but there was something about the chemistry, and that wasn't really working. So they cast Joe Pantaleone in the part. It was tough to lose that role, but at the same time, I like talking about it because I think other actors will be encouraged, because that's the way of the world. Sometimes you lose some, sometimes you gain them, and I think they can be encouraged not to give up and not to give in, because a lot of people. I remember David coming up to me and saying, "Now what are you going to do, Chase?
Yeah.
What are you going to do?" I said, "Well, I'm going to continue acting." And they had created the role of Eugene for me, and I asked, "What is that Eugene about?" I said, "Well, we'll make it up as we go along." So I hung in there. Obviously, they liked what they saw at my audition and also on screen with James. And they felt that it was worthwhile to keep me and to create another character. And hence, Eugene Pontecorvo was created and birthed,
Yeah, I'll say that's one of the reasons I reached out to you. I love the character so much, and his whole storyline, everything that went on, especially in the final episode that you were in. What was it like to work with that cast? I mean, just a bunch of legends.
Well, television is let's talk a little bit about the difference between Eugene and Cifaretto. Eugene was more like myself. And in TV, it has a tendency to cast you as you really are, in the sense of your métier. And that Ralph never really was me. And I was very, very happy how it ended and how it progressed and to stay on the show. But it became mine. And that was a beautiful thing, to create a role as we go along. And what they did was really a blessing. So in terms of working with people on Sopranos, from the cast to the people, the hair, makeup, to the writers and the grips, Jeff Marchetti, great friend and an actor too, and he's in the union, and the IETSA union, and it was a wonderful experience. It was how should I say? It was my apprenticeship. You had to learn fast, but I learned fast. And it was looking back at the experience, it was great. Just to being thrown into a pool and swim. Sometimes it's very beneficial. I remember my Uncle Nicky throwing me into a pool to swim and to show the lifeguard that I can swim in Newburgh, New York. It was frightening, but once I got it, it was a great, it was really rewarding,
Yeah.
You can show that you can do it, not in a regular way. It's funny because it's very difficult as an actor to get that break. And I try to do it as much as I can with as much fulcrum that I have to send the elevator down for friends. If I was doing something, I would love to work with some people that I like to work with and to keep employed. And James was one of those great people who remembered the people along the way, and he helped them.
Yeah, he seemed like he was a great guy. I wish he would have been around a lot longer.
Yeah, but it's true. He's forever immortalized, and he'll be remembered, as being a great person, and I do too. And Michael is wonderful in The Many Saints of Newark. I know you want to talk about that. I don't know now, but if you want to do it now, but he's really great in that, and he looks the spit image of his dad. It's funny because my first son looks like me, Tomas. He does look like me. I see myself in him, and that was Jimmy's first son, and he's definitely inside him, you know.
Yeah. So what was life like, the change? I mean, because you were now experiencing fame to some extent, right? I mean, you were getting recognized, I'm sure. How did you handle that?
It was. I tried to be as humble as possible. I got a million calls from a lot of people. People who never spoke to me before. I won't name names, and it's very true that. But I learned one thing in that whole experience, and I was basically nice to everyone who had called. I might not have called them back and engaged with them because I knew it was kind of like, oh, now you're calling me. But I was personable. I learned that, from that experience, I learned that you really are the only person who could define yourself. You're not to be defined by others and what they feel about you and how they what they think about you. You could never change that. And before that, Sopranos, I was just that regular guy. I worked as a manager at Caroline's, wanted to be an actor, and then I became one. And I saw the phoniness, and I just said, well, I'm not going to really engage in that, but I'm going to define myself, and I've kept that. It's not what they think you are; it's who you think you are. That's the most important thing. So that's what I learned from that whole experience. I mean, a lot of guys, I heard stories about Jamie. There was one guy that was a pain in the ass, and he told him a few words too. But I might have had one of those moments that, those people who really are negative people. But that was the main thing that I learned from that,
Yeah. Yeah. It must have been some experience. I want to talk more about your character and the Sopranos. How you were in 26 episodes, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah, and see, the thing I love, what I was going to say is about your character, about Eugene Pontecorvo, especially when it got to the members only episode, is everything he was dealing with in life at once. He was a made guy, but he was also a family man. He just inherited money. He wanted to leave the life and move to Florida. His son had a drug problem. His wife was kind of, nagging him to get up and move away. What was it like playing that character? And could you relate at all to the things he was going through?
Well, yeah, through the show itself, when I was told that that the show was, when David made that infamous phone call and said, I got great news and I got terrible news. What do you want to know first? I said, give me the good news. Well, we wrote a show called Members Only, and you're throughout the whole show. You have a wife, you have a child. It's going to be your show. I mean, basically, you're one of the main themes of the show, multiple themes, but you're one of the protagonists of the show. I said, well, that's fantastic. Now tell me the bad news. Well, you're dead. You're dead. And I said, well, okay, I'll take it. Now, having that show not on my entire shoulders, because James always carried every show, let's face it, and he had the entire show on his shoulders. But I had part of it. I had to carry the weight. And the terror alone of that really worked for the character. Let me just say that the transference of that terror of making it as good as I could was really, I was using that as an actor. You don't want to resist those feelings if they're going to work for you. So I knew that was going in my favor to have that and to use the fulcrum or like a judo move. You don't want to back out of that. You want to accept it, and embrace it. So I embraced that, and hence it really came out really well.
It did. I think it's one of the best episodes. I always loved, the struggle that he was going through. I could relate to it in some aspects.
And prophetic, maybe a little bit prophetic with the drug aspect of the substance abuse. I think David really wanted to put that out there also with the needle and everything that Deanna finds in my son's room. And I mean, substance abuse is horrible. And that was one of the things. The walls were closing in on him. I've lost my nephew to that, my nephew Joseph. He's a wonderful young man. So, I really, but I lost him after that. But I look back at it sometimes from time to time and I say, wow, look at that, right? My son. And wow.
I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you. Thank you. I think it's
Yeah,
important just to put it out there at least.
yeah. Well, I'm 20. I'll be 29 months clean and sober this month, and
Keep it up.
I do shows. Thank you. I do shows on here from time to time about addiction and recovery. That's
Yeah.
another reason I said, I could relate a lot to, that scene, especially
Right.
when Eugene found out his son was using drugs.
Yes.
But, so somebody I saw in the comments asked, and it was a good question. Whose idea was the hanging scene? That method of suicide, was that
Well,
Terrence Winter?
Yes, I would believe that's Terry Winter's choice.
And he won he won an Emmy for, I think, outstanding writing for a drama series for that episode, right?
Yes, very proud of that. Yes. He
Yeah, I'm
said,
sure.
I'm sorry, Bobby. I should have mentioned you. I said, you son of a bitch.
Yeah, the whole show was about you.
Yeah, well, it's just I don't know what I would say if I was receiving an award. I remember Jimmy receiving an award and thanking every person personally, and he got through I think 45 names, and they cut him off. And Jimmy was that great to do that. Didn't say anything. Terrence Winter, Funaro, blah 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 blah, one after another, like a machine gun. All these people. Look at all these people. Yeah, that was great. That was great. He was just
He was always good.
He was so on the side of right. Like James Lipton. When James Lipton asked him, "What would you do if you were God, just for the day?" If God said, gave you if you get a chance to ask one question to God, and he said, "Can I take over for a while?" And that's was James's answer, and it was just James all the way because he balanced the scales for sure.
Yeah.
He would definitely balance the scales.
So I got to ask you one big question. People would not be happy with me if I didn't ask this. Did Tony die at the end?
That I think to me, it was explained best by Peter Bogdanovich, Last Picture Show, great director, and a man who really, who was a very close friend with John Cassavetes, who really left. There really was no endings in some of his films, except for the mainstream films like Gloria, in his directing, and of course with Peter, he wrote a little article after that, and he said that everyone could, in their minds, kind of figure out their own scenario. That David left it open. I don't think he does die, but I think that, as Bogdanovich said, there's a perpetuity. It's perpetual. It keeps on going. It's never going to end. The wise guys, the members only, the killing. You make it what you want. You want to make it. Everybody wanted closure, but is it really closure in a universal way? Look at the man behind you, how it ended for him, which is a very sad thing. Yet there's another person who's going to take over. That's what I got from it. It's not going to end. There's going to be Boy Scouts. There's going to be the members only guy. There's going to be the rappers. This is our country. And there's going to be Tony Sopranos. But I don't think his life ended at Holston's that night. If that's the question.
Was the
question? I don't
know.
That
was the question. Absolutely.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I tried to answer it. And Bogdanovich's was a good answer, I thought, that everyone will make up, like when you go see a painting, a Jackson Pollock or any painting, you take your own interpretation of, not all races have a finish line.
Yeah.
Life doesn't always have a finish line. It keeps on going. And Cassavetes' films were like that. And that's why I kind of like the ending.
Yeah. Some people do, some people don't. But one of the reasons I wanted to ask you, too, wasn't just because you were part of the cast, but because a lot of the reasons people think Tony might have got hit in the diner that night was because of the man in the members only jacket. Yeah. And obviously, they took that from from your scene when you went into the
Right.
diner and you killed the guy in the booth.
Right.
So that's another reason I wanted to ask you.
No,
about
I think it was more. I interpret it as being more symbolic, but I
Yeah.
mean, you can make up whatever you like. You know,
Yeah.
everything goes to black, but that was the genius of David. It all goes to black.
Yeah, and we'll be wondering forever now.
Yes. But one candle, I think St. Francis of Assisi said, one candle can light a whole room. One little candle of light can illuminate it all.
Yeah.
Yep.
So after The Sopranos, what was your next move? Because, I wrote some of your filmography down. You were in Law and Order, Criminal Intent, Law and Order SVU, and you had, about 8 years, I think, between all three of those, right?
Yeah. I think the intent is just to continue to work, and definitely was a diving board to other things from Sopranos, and it gave me some credibility in terms of casting directors and offering me some auditions. The waves didn't part like Moses and the Ten Commandments, I must say. I remember talking to Jimmy, and Jimmy saying, after this episode, if it doesn't do things for you, man, you better just hang up the boxing shoes. I didn't hang them up, but the waters didn't actually part. It's still very difficult. As an actor, you try to do everything that you're offered, and then it's that one thing that maybe can really show who you are. So you try to get to the card table and get a hand. You get a good hand, Chris, and it's very much, it's very much about that. So I took whatever I can get. I mean, and there was some really good stuff. American Gangster came along. My dad had passed away, and after he passed away, I was told by my late manager, Eric Faber, God rest his soul, that they were considering me for the role of McCann. So that was great, and the other stuff came along. So it was always good to do more work, not in the sense I never got what I did in Sopranos, but you do what you can, and you make it's what you do with what you got that counts, I suppose.
Yeah. I read that you met Frank Lucas when you did American Gangster.
I did meet Frank Lucas. Yes.
What's he like?
He's kind of a quiet guy. He wasn't extremely talkative, but he was personable. I met Richie Roberts too. There were some grips, and when we shot in Harlem, didn't want to speak to him at all, and didn't really want to romanticize what he did to. They felt like substance abuse, that he was responsible for a lot of deaths with the blue magic and addiction and stuff like that. So I didn't look at it like that. I looked at it more as an actor, to try to meet him and try to understand a little bit more in depth what my role was about, and to try to enrich that. But he was not a nice enough man, and I think he was happy to be making a few dollars. Him and Richie Roberts, because the way the story was told, it's like Dog Day Afternoon. I was told it was somewhat a little bit different, a little bit Hollywood-esque, and I believe that American Gangster was somewhat like that. Not that Denzel was fantastic, and of course Brolin and everyone in the film, Armand Asante, everyone is really excellent in that film, and Reza and all the actors. It was really Scott is a great director. He got everyone together, and he really was a great ensemble director. And Russell Crowe. But I did talk to a few SIU cops, Special Investigations, and they said, who the heck is Frank Lucas? I mean, who the heck is Richie Roberts? They knew who Frank Lucas was. Who the hell is Richie Roberts? We did the bust, not Richie Roberts. We did the bust, not him. Richie Roberts was post Frank Lucas. So I don't know what's up with that.
Oh, yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's what I was told by someone who was, I'm not going to name names, someone who was in that SIU unit during that time. Who the hell's Richie Roberts?
Well, that's interesting.
But he
actually,
was engaged, of course, afterward. as his attorney of some sort of, or got involved.
Yeah.
He got involved some way.
Yeah, that's good to know. I just learned something new. I always thought the movie was more accurate, but
I was told it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, yeah. The question is what happened to Frank Lewis prior to the SIU getting him, and Richie Roberts' involvement later on after he was basically busted or something like that, and how he was brought to justice. I don't know how that fluctuates, but I know the story is a little bit fictionalized.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that happens with movies sometimes.
Great film. Yeah, sure. I mean, that's the magic of Hollywood. Yeah, I believe it.
Yeah. Oh, and it's an excellent movie without a doubt.
Yes.
I've watched that movie probably 25 times. So doing the transition, like, what do you like more? Because you played a cop a lot. You played a wise guy in a few things. Which do you prefer? Which character do you prefer, playing a cop, a wise guy?
It's really about the content of the material. It's not so much being a wise guy, being a cop. It's what I'm doing. What am I doing in the play or the film or the TV series? I really get behind things that are they're true, they're meaningful, they're interesting. Members Only gave me that chance to be that guy I wanted to get out, that people could relate to, very much like On the Waterfront. I could have been a contender. People could empathize with that. They can empathize with Gene. So that was that material. Understand, Chris? That was that material. Getting it. That was probably my finest role on television so far because of the acting that I did on it. Of course, I liked playing on Sinner, the father, the blue collar guy. I do enjoy playing that. I'm not so much a wise guy, but I fit into that also. I'll do it. I'll enjoy it also, but not as much as the other things.
Yeah. I hate to go back to it, but there is one other question about Members Only. And the acting is phenomenal. I watched it again today and I was just like, wow. I mean, what a display of talent. Excellent work. But what I wanted to ask, because I forgot earlier, the hanging scene. I mean, it was so convincing and you did it so well. How did you pull that off like that? And what was it like to actually have to play that out?
Pete Picosi, the stunt coordinator, wonderful stunt coordinator for Sopranos, major man in the industry. He worked it out that he shipped in a brace from California. We tried some braces. As a matter of fact, outside the Bada Bing, it's Satin Dolls, we put a curtain in the parking lot. Everyone was wondering, why is that big curtain in the parking lot? We were rehearsing the hanging scene. With certain braces, and it wasn't working right. So Pete said, I'm going to rework it, and he sent out to California for this special brace. So he had hung me on the brace and make me feel secure, and that was a mock rope on them. But to the question you asked, I don't think you got to do much acting when you get to that point that you're going to hang yourself. I just tried to be in the moment. In terms of the despair and the anxiety of doing such a thing. And of course, Tim Van Patten, great director, he directed me and said, just, Bobby, great to stay in that space. He encouraged me to stay in that area, that red zone area that I was able to get to just before I hang myself. So that close up and the whole thing, that the despair was pretty convincing, I think. But I got there just alone by just thinking of Gene and the whole situation and how men get to that point and they actually do it. Glad I could live to tell the story.
Yeah, really. At least you were only acting.
Yeah. Some people that called me up afterward, said, that, hey, they watched that scene and it helped them not to do it. believe it or not, some suicidal Americans or whatever, and said that, well, thanks for helping me out. I said, well, I'm glad I could help you, man.
Wow. Well, yeah, because maybe seeing the,
Yeah.
actually seeing it play out, what it would
Right.
be like. I could imagine that would actually help anybody who's thinking about making that decision. It wasn't a
Touch
pretty
fire,
sight.
man. Touch fire, you touch and you got things twice, right? So, if it's fire, so maybe I did a good deed there. So,
Yeah. All right. So, and then you were in eventually you were in also Last Revolution.
Last Revolution. What's that one?
Did I get this wrong?
I may have gotten that wrong. The Last Revolution.
I thought I saw that on your IMDb, and not Fade Away. You were in that.
Not
That
Fade
was with
Away, yeah.
James-
Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. What do you want to say?
That was with James Gandolfini as well, too, right?
Yes, I played Uncle Murph in that, and with John Magaro, who plays little Stevie Van Zandt. I mean, Silvio Dante in Many Saints of Newark. And we did that. It was kind of how David became what he became, to be a television writer and director, and being a sensitive young man in a kind of a brutal, the matrix of being not so understood by his dad. And I thought it was somewhat autobiographical. I did get sick, so I couldn't do my last takes in the springtime. We had shot in the winter, and I was told that I was going to finish up in spring. And I got a call from not David, from some of the people, and I said, I just can't do it. I'm sick, but I survived that, and they had a stand-in for me. If you look at the scene in the backyard, you see me from behind, and it looks like me. So at least I wasn't totally out of the picture.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun working with Jimmy on that set.
And I have some more of your filmography here. I see Broadway's Finest, Charlie Mantle.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun with did that with Armand Asante in Long Island. Eddie Walls, the producer. And that was a great film. That was basically, I carried the film there. Corrupt, kind of like a Reservoir Dogs. No, I'm sorry, Bad Lieutenant. Harvey Keitel, Bad Lieutenant, minus the sex. My addiction was gambling. Gambling horses on the horses. And that was Charlie Mantle's flaw. But he was a good cop, a good detective. And, when I read the script, it was a little bit better than what they say there's 3 scripts, the original script, the script that you shoot, and then there's an edited version of what you do. I wasn't so in love with the ending on the edited version, but it was a lot of fun to do that.
I bet.
Yeah, you can see it on I think Prime or Net. I think Prime has it.
I actually saw on YouTube too. I think you can rent it on YouTube.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. So I don't want to skip anything. If there's anything I'm missing as far as movies or TV shows you want to talk about, what I just went over is a couple of your movies. But The Irishman, obviously that had to be a pretty big deal for you, right? Because I mean that was huge.
Yeah, I was finishing up Sinner with Jessica Biel and Chris Mason, and I said to Chris, "Hey, it was September of 19, and I said to Chris, did you get a call in to get an audition for Irishman?" And he said, "No." I said, "I didn't get one either." And I thought the principal casting was done. They were starting to shoot it in early September. I said, "Well, I missed that one, missed that chance." But I did do Vinyl with Marty, produced by Mick Jagger. And so Marty did know of me. And after I finished Sinner, I got a call from my manager. Eric called me up and said they wanted you to read for a role in The Irishman. I said, "Wow, really? It's kind of late." "Yeah, you going to do it?" "Yeah, of course I'm going to read for it." And I landed the role of Johnny. That was great it was a great feeling to get in that, and to have the scene with De Niro was another milestone I would say, in my career, to work with such a genius actor. Although I didn't, you don't want to treat everyone as a person, but I do respect his talent and his art and his devotion to the craft. And I did have a few people that he knew, so broke the ice. I was able to talk about Richard Bright for Once Upon a Time in America. He played Al Neri in The Godfather.
Yeah.
You close the door on Michael, close the door on Kay, and everyone knew him from that. But then he was in Godfather 3 and 2, and he was Michael's man. Brando talks about him. He was my mentor. So we talked about Richard. We talked about Ratonya Alder, who was in The Deer Hunter, who was close to him also. She played John Savage's wife in The Deer Hunter. So we had something to talk about. I could break the ice, and I could be his friend. Johnny was Frank Sheeran's friend.
Yeah.
So, that was a wonderful experience. I really felt great to do that. And also be in some other scenes. Marty's a great painter. He keeps you around because he may use some of your stroke in one of his strokes. So it was a great experience to work with him any time of the week. It just gives you such freedom.
Yeah, I can only imagine working with a legend like that. It's got to be.
Well, that's how he gets
unbelievable.
great performances from all the actors, because he gives them that freedom to just be who they are, makes them comfortable, and that's the way it should be. It should be, in television, it's always on the gun. Got to get it. Maybe it gets in your head, and you can't get it, and then you get a patient director who says, "Okay, let's give it this take 5, and let's come back." But I think the directors who want results. I don't think those are the best directors. And on The Sopranos, you got the great directors that would give it some time. But there are others that just want results. But there's a way to get to the result. You just can't play the result. If you're any good, you're going to get to the result.
Yeah. Yeah. That was another phenomenal movie. So
I thought so. The 3-hour film. I mean, if anyone's going to do it, I think Martin Scorsese is the director who can do it and pull it off. I do believe that it going on to television, Netflix did it. They were ahead of their time. They kind of knew with this COVID thing, pandemic, that everything would transfer to personal. Everything's going to this. Everyone's on their phone, and they can watch your film on the Netflix on their phone. It's just so. But if you listen to any of Marty's talks, he talks about content is important, but the form of movie making and on the big screen is a tremendous art that's really we hope it's not lost. I went to see Many Saints of Newark in the theaters. I'm going to continue to go to the theater because I like theater. I like to see it on the big screen. So that's my feeling on it. And I think that it would have been more successful. The Times gave it a great review if it didn't go to television, because people, when they're in their home and it's a 3-hour movie, and they go get let me get a beer. And, I feel like some popcorn. I got this chips, it's pretzels. And, just pause it, honey. Let's make love, and then let's go back into it. It's like, it's like 3 hours. It's like they hear 3 hours and they don't sit down. When you're in the theater, you're going to sit down for 3 hours, and wow, you're going to be with it. You're going to be with it. You're not going to be bored because you're with it. You don't have that leeway to escape or whatever you want.
Yeah. Me and my wife, we broke it up into 2 nights. We watched half one night and half the second night. Okay. Very long. But like you said, though, it's not as good then because you forget a little bit from the beginning.
In the theater, I promise you, Chris, it wouldn't have been as long. You would have been excited in everything that was happening in the film.
Yeah, I believe
you might have been breaking it up. You might have still got the same I think you liked it. You said you did, so that's important.
Yeah. It was just a lot of information packed into that movie. But still, it's going to be a classic.
Who really killed Jimmy Hoffa? It was a credible premise, and it makes total sense. His connection with Russell Buffalino, the connection with New York, Sam Giancana, that whole thing. It just makes. I believe it to be true. My feeling.
Yeah. And that's got to be to work with Scorsese, that's almost got to be like a bucket list thing, right? For an actor.
Oh yeah. It's it's a great feeling to be around him, because he's just like he's an director for the actor. He's for the actor. He's 100%. Not to say that the other ones aren't, but it's like a family. I mean, I had people on Irishman that I knew from Raging Bull, and that I knew from Goodfellas. They were on the film. He says, everybody, we're working again. Come on, come on. You may not, even Keitel's role, which was not so, his role as he played the Philadelphia crime boss, Angelo Bruno.
Yeah.
He had said, I wish it was written, it could have been bigger, but Keitel did it, and he was brilliant, and he uses the same people. He keeps it in the family. That's the great thing about Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't imagine, every time I interview anybody who worked with, legends like that, I ask what it's like to work with them. And I mean, do you feel a satisfaction now, as far as your career goes, knowing that not only you had so many important roles, but you got to work with the legends? I mean, especially as an Italian-American actor. I mean, you got to work with James Gandolfini, De Niro, Scorsese. I mean, it's got, and what, Pacino and Pesci and The Irishman, right? I mean,
I passed Joe Pesci and I said hello to him. I didn't never work with Pacino, but I was in the same film as him. And I feel very blessed that I was given the opportunity, all from that one meeting with my friend Gordon and James and the divine intervention, God, his intervention also. I feel very blessed that I had that opportunity to act with such great people. I mean, I never take it for granted. Sometimes it's easy when you're not working to say, man, I'm not doing anything, but it's important now, especially with Many Saints in Newark. A lot of people coming up to me, hey, I saw you on the Sopranos, they're doing a marathon. And, you go back and you look at some of the work and you say, wow, I'm really proud of that. So that's important. And, I mean, it was a great feeling, and I don't take it for granted that I was given a great opportunity, and it was great to work with those people, those actors, and those directors. You always want more, you want to do more, but I realized one thing, that for some people it's easy. Other actors, they have to, like Sylvester Stallone, and I think I'm in the category. I won't put myself in his category, but I will say that I do best when I try to create my own opportunities, and that's what I'm trying to do now. Trying to produce some things that I think that I can excel in. But I'm really thankful.
Yeah. Well, I wanted to ask you about, because that was some of your films. I want to move on to your TV career a little bit. What do you prefer? Do you prefer? I ask a lot of actors this. Do you prefer movies or TV?
I prefer film first.
Yeah.
In television, it's a little bit more constricting, in the sense of you really have to keep the dialogue intact. The writers have a little bit more say in what you're doing. But I do like both forms. The form that I like the best is theater. And probably I excel best in theater. I feel like everybody has to know themselves. And in theater, I feel that, and a lot of actors feel that way. Others don't. Richard Bright was a triple threat. He was great in everything. But I do prefer film as opposed to television. But at the same time, if you're the protagonist in a television show and you have a focal point, it's a different feeling than coming in for the day or even for the week and you're a guest star. It's a little bit of different feeling. To be a regular is it better than to be a guest star. You're coming in and what are these people going to think about me? All these things go through your head. You want to meld. And in the Soprano family, we welcomed everyone, no matter what you did, even if you had one line or one word. And that's how many sets are. Law and Order, they're nice. They got to be. You have to be. It's really a gift to get that role. But I do prefer film over TV.
Yeah. That's what a lot of people I talk to say. Um, so as far as your TV career, you were obviously, like I said, you were in Law and Order. Um, you were in The Sopranos, as we know. The Unusuals. That
Yeah,
one I'm not familiar with.
Jeremy Renner, the actor who was in Hurt Locker, he was in that. Amber Tamberlin and a few other known actors, but Jeremy was the main actor in that. And Eric said, "At audition, you got a couple of lines. You're in the police department in this series called Unusuals. Will you do it?" I said, "Of course I'll do it. You never know. I mean, I'll do it. I'll go in for one line. I don't care. Members only. Who gives you? You never know with acting. Director sees you, he opens you up, and that's what happened with The Unusuals. I thought it was extremely funny, and I still get residuals from it from Europe, so they're still playing it. And Renner, he had done Hurt Locker already, and he blew up. But I think the timing and for him and his career, how it blew up in film, how it progressed in film, really was more advantageous for him. But that timing of that TV series, if he would have got the nomination and people saw him, I think it would have had a better trajectory because he just after that, he would have carried the show. It was great. It was working with him and Amber Tamberlin. It was very funny. And they made me a regular in the precinct, and they were opening me up, and I was doing more and more, being a little bit of a joker, as policeman. But it was, it's really too bad it didn't go. Because it was like one line turned into like a scene, and then two scenes, and it was great.
Yeah, I bet. So also you were in Blue Bloods, you were in Vinyl. I do want to talk about The Sinner. Your role in The Sinner. That was the first, I guess, season of The Sinner, right? Isn't that what they can?
Yes, that was a limited series. It's always a limited series, Sinner. Yes.
But they had after the one with Jessica Biel, there was one that was a totally different story, right?
Yeah, I mean, they decided because they were using different actors, I suppose, not to bring back or make it in that town. I think it lent itself to Jessica Biel. Maybe, Jessica, I always thought maybe she could have stretched 2 seasons out of it.
Oh, yeah.
She was so great in it. And, but it was given in one season, maybe one season because she had a baby. I think she had a baby and with Justin Timberlake and she wanted, and she seems like a great mother and she just wanted to do one season, but man, I'd like to see her again in something else. She's just such a terrific actress.
Yeah. The Sinner was phenomenal. And
they kept Pullman. They kept Bill Pullman because they needed to have somebody that was, of course, his way of detecting was really unique too. Yeah, it was really unique. It was a great experience to work with her and all those actors. We actually started in South Carolina because they had something going on in North Carolina with the racism or something or other, or maybe, I don't know, with some sort of controversy that they brought the production to South Carolina. So it was nice going down there and shooting that. It was a good experience.
Yeah, I was going to ask, just as a man, I would have to ask what it's like working with Jessica Biel, of course. But
oh man, it's just like, I tell you the truth, there were only 2 times in my career that I was kind of like a deer caught in the headlights with actresses. One of them was Angie Harmon on Law and Order. She came to say hello to me, and it was like a Jackie Gleason moment. Humana, just staring at her like, wow, how she is freaking beautiful, man. Yeah. And the same thing happened with Jessica Biel. I said, holy cow. Then she gave me a hug, and that was like I didn't get the hug from Angela Harmon. I got it from Jessica. Not that I was coveting her or anything like that. I'm not like that, but it was a nice added bonus that she gave me a hug, and wow, she's beautiful too. I was a deer caught in the headlight with her also.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
she is.
My daughter-in-law, which helped too, so it was great to be around her,
Oh, really?
Yeah, she was my daughter-in-law in that. So.
Oh, yeah. See, I don't remember it as well. I actually watched it twice But
But it was
I
very
just,
interesting, that motive at the end of why. I don't want to be a spoiler, but how it happened and why it happened. People don't understand that. I just saw a play um, off Broadway at the Ohio Theater about child molester. A 12-year-old girl, man makes a 12-year-old girl, and she comes back to face him, and to call him out basically. But which I couldn't believe that she, and I can't really say the whole thing. It was called Blackbird. She's kind of like the Blackbird, Paul McCartney. And it takes place in one place in the workroom, and everyone's gone. And he's a businessman. He has a new life. He went to jail for 3 years, but she still has the attraction to him, and it's brought out towards the end of the play. You don't really understand it until how it stays with you. How it, if he never did it, her life would have been different. I mean, it's kind of crazy, how it affects people, how it later on, and that motive of what happened to her in a way is, it kind of explains it. But I couldn't understand it after I watched the play. How could she possibly hold this guy, but she was ruined by this man, and she had a crush on him, and she never got over it, but if he didn't consummate it, perhaps she would have had a regular life, and same thing. I'm not going to say with Jessica Biel, but it's interesting, humanity and things we do, the tangled web we weave, Chris, as Shakespeare said.
Yeah, really. And that show, I mean,
mesmerizing.
The build up to what happened at the end, and I was shocked. See, my wife, like, she's good at predicting things like this. So closer to the end, she kind of figured out what went on. I was clueless right up until I saw, the last episode and saw what actually happened. But wild show. Excellent.
Yes.
Is there anything else you want to talk about as far as your TV career, or do you have any upcoming projects you want to promote or anything?
An upcoming project in Buffalo, New York called For Nothing with Michael Madsen. He's involved in the project. We shot the pilot, and I was told by the writers that they're going to bring us back, and I'm going to be in it 9 episodes, and I have a better trajectory the next season, and so I'm looking forward to that. I play the boss, Don Corleone, not Don Corleone, but Leo. So, I mean, it'll be a lot of fun to do that, to work again. We've been kind of affected by the COVID crisis. Now the IATSE union, ETSE, wants to strike, or I'm in solidarity with them, of course. I don't know how long it's going to be, but now the ball field is really leveled. No one will be working for a little while, but hopefully they come to some sort of agreement. I do have a play that I'd like to work on in the spring of 2022, when I think things are going to be a lot safer and things are going to be opening up. Hopefully I'll be able to do it, called The OG, and look for it off Broadway, off Broadway. If it's up to me, I'll try to do it off Broadway. Great play about an ex-con coming out of jail, 40 years. Maybe he's the John Gotti who gets out of jail and wants to make his life right, get back with his estranged daughter and straighten out his life. And then he has a conscience. His conscience are these ghosts that haunt him. One of them, a close friend that he's basically responsible for killing indirectly. And it has multiple themes. As a young filmmaker like Spike Lee, his life trying to get out of the Coney Island. It takes place in Coney Island, trying to get out of the neighborhood. And there's a guy who wants to hold him down. And so it has the meeting of the African, and the Italians, and I befriend him. We work at an Olive Garden. It's a great premise. I'm not going to say anything else. Somebody might steal it. I don't want him to steal it, Chris. Anyway, call The OG and look for it off Broadway in the spring of 2022.
Yeah.
God willing.
So I also want to ask you, because we didn't bring it up yet before I let you go here. Would you mind taking a few questions from commenters, actually?
Sure.
If you got a few minutes.
Sure.
If anybody has any
Yankees,
questions.
no, I just let me know who's winning the Yankee game.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry to keep you on.
That's okay.
This is Angel. This is Angel Gotti. She said she wants to watch The Sinner again now.
Yeah, you can check it out.
I wanted to ask you about the Many Saints of Newark. Did I hear you say you didn't see it yet?
I did see it.
Oh, okay. I thought you said about
I
going to
saw it
see
in the
it in the
theater. I
theater.
saw it in the theater.
Oh, okay. What do you think? I mean, obviously you're a little
It's-
biased, but
It's an excellent film that's going to give you the trajectory of Tony Soprano, the race riots, and a good introspection of where Chris came from. Dick Montesanti, wonderful actor who plays it, and you get to see Paulie Walnuts as a young man. And I don't want to spoil it for others. It kind of reads like a TV show, kind of like has that kind of feel, not like beginning, middle, and culminating. But I did enjoy it. It was very entertaining.
you think it's going to be a series of movies now?
All depending, it could be. I mean, Michael Gandolfini is terrific in it, and I could see him doing more. And I see the next level of how he gets there. I don't want to tell people what happens, but I could see how he basically becomes who he becomes, and how his intelligence progresses. I mean, they laid the foundation of the mom, the relationship with his mom, and all the actors are really excellent in the film.
Why wasn't there a young Eugene in there?
Maybe that's coming up. CYO basketball. I'm not sure. I don't know. CYO.
What about
I was looking for myself. Is CYO? Is he playing bad? But no, he's doing football, not basketball.
What about one of the most talked about characters in there is the young Silvio? What do you think?
Joe Magaro plays Silvio. Yeah, he does a great job. I mean, we're defined by our actions and what we do. And you certainly see enough actions of how Silvio progressed along the way. And it's a lot of fun to see Big Pussy and Silvio and Paulie Walnuts as young men. Yeah, it's interesting. That's what I'll say. It's interesting to see him as that. I don't want to spoil it for people, but they should go see it. I mean, I know the Soprano fans are definitely going to go because they want to see young Tony Soprano. Michael's just terrific. So him alone, and Livio, who played Dickie Montesanti. Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Bernthal and as Tony Soprano, he's a terrific actor. So and Chase put it together a good film, I think, and Alan Taylor directed really nicely. So
yeah. I've heard varying opinions on it, but it's a high bar to set. The Sopranos, people are going to expect what they're going to expect. Everybody wants a little something different out of that movie, but I think it's just the start to. I think there'll be at least 2 more. That's just my opinion.
Hopefully, I mean, Carlos wants to know about how James pranked people on the set. So, well, I'll tell you one story about Vito Spafatoro, Joe Ganascoli. We had it that the chair that he sits on and it falls apart. He goes to sit on it. Well, he didn't know about that. So it's like James set that up, and
oh, really?
He didn't know that chair was going to collapse like that.
Oh, shit.
So that was a surprise. We all had a great laugh, with that moment. So that was one of the moments that Carlos I had with James, and he was a terrific prankster. Yes, he was. He did a lot of crazy things, and things that actors do to kind of get reactions. I forgot some of the things he would do. They take your take and then they take the other guy's take. And James had a way of bringing things to get a reaction out of you. On your take, maybe he had a bowling ball or something that he'd show you while you're doing your take and you couldn't take it. You'd laugh. He made things fun. He broke down those barriers, Carlos, to make it fun. His pranks really were I don't think he took things seriously, but at the end of the day, you can't be that serious with anything you do. He's not Tony Soprano. He was James Gandolfini. And that was the great thing about James. He was able to, be able to bring down those barriers, not to be 24/7. He was never 20. He was Jimmy, the prankster too. And that was fun to be with him. Yeah.
Tony Pep Vodka Sauce wants to know, what neighborhood in Staten Island did you grow up
New York.
in? Okay.
New York. I graduated New York High School. 77.
All right. Mind someone else's business, wants to know, do you still keep in contact with the cast?
Yes, sure I do. I speak to Vinny Pastore, Maureen Van Zandt. I see Stevie Van Zandt from time to time. We do plays together with Maureen. She has a company called Renegade Theater Company. And me and Vincent, and we want to direct a play by Richard Viteri called Painting Houses, Painting X's on the Moon. So I stay in touch. I was in touch with Jeff Marchetti this morning. So yeah, we were all in touch, and we see each other at the appearances. Of course, Federico, and at the Soprano Con and Virtual Con, and we Vinny Curatola and Jason Sabone and Matt Savino. We see each other at these appearances. So I don't, on a personal level, I guess I'm closer to Vinny and Maureen and Stevie.
Yeah. Well, maybe you can put in a good word for me, because I'd love to interview all of those.
That's not so easy, you know. They're like eagles. You see them once in a while. Some of those guys.
Yeah.
Stevie's busy with his book, and Maureen, she's busy with directing, choreography, acting, stuff like that. So it's not so easy, you know.
Yeah.
I try to make myself accessible to everyone if I have the time. And Chris?
Well, obviously, this is, I appreciate this so much. Just you doing this for me proves that. One last question. Ganji wants to know, who did you hang out with on The Sopranos?
Like hang out with, like Palermo. Jimmy we used to go out together. James Gandolfini, and of course Maureen and Vincent, and me and James. We had. He's such a great guy. My car blew up or something like that. He found out about it, and he said to me, "Listen, I got a car in South Jersey, and I'm not using it. It's a Mustang, or it's a Thunderbird. Do you want to use it for a while? I'll make you use it. I'll give it to you to use, and this way you have a car to get around with." And I said, "Yeah, sure, James, I'll use it." And he said that on the way up, the car blew up on the way on the Garden State. He said, "I can't give you that car. It's not sound." So that's the kind of guy he was, you know. He give you the shirt off his back. So we hung out a lot. We go to dinner and drinks, and Maureen and Vincent Pastore, good friend Stevie Van Zandt. I hung out with those guys a lot after the plays and stuff like that. Frank Pellegrino from Rayo's. That was we did a play with Frank called Lamppost Reunion, and I got to be at Rayo's a lot. Vinny invited me to have dinner with him, and Frank did also, because I had a part in the show, and that was great to hang out at Rayo's, you know, and eat there. Great food, you know. No one can get a table. Can't get a table.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
Well, it's good you got to make so many great memories, and you had, like I said in the beginning, you've had a very impressive acting career. I think you're supremely talented.
Thank you.
And I want to thank you for doing this. I've kept you on over an hour. I appreciate it so much. Just the fact that I came out of nowhere, nagged you a little bit, and you were kind enough to do this for me. It means a lot. So thank you for the opportunity again.
Thank you, Chris, too. I'm looking forward to seeing the show.
Yep. And is there anything you want to say, any social media you want to plug or anything before you go?
St. Jude's, Christmas is coming up. It's a great institution, charity to give to. And that's about it. And God bless.
All right. Thank you again, Robert.
Vaccinate also.
Yeah, I'm vaccinated. So
yeah.
All right. I appreciate you coming on once again, Robert. Thank you so much. And
thank you, Chris.
Yep. And maybe one day we could do it again.
Yes, absolutely. For sure. To get around to doing that play in spring, we'll have another talk. We'll talk about it. Maybe come down and see the play.
Sounds great.
Okay.
All right.
Ciao.
Yep. Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye.
Bye. Excellent. I really hope everyone enjoyed that. That was fantastic for me. I wasn't blowing smoke up Robert's ass. I really, loved his character in The Sopranos. And, he's such a great guy because, I reached out to him out of nowhere. He gave me a yes. He said he would do it. And, here he was. He showed up for me. Um, you got to give him credit for that. A lot of guys in his position would laugh at someone with me with a show the size of mine, but he didn't, and I think it was a great interview, and I appreciate him so much for it. Thank you, Edward Everett. I appreciate that. Thanks, Carlos Muniz. I appreciate you. Thanks, Lexi. Carol, thank you. Thank you, everybody. Joe Malecki, yeah. I mean, Eugene Pontecorvo. And that's just one of his roles. But I mean, it'll stick with us forever. That was such an important episode, members only. And, the suicide scene and, seeing him go through all the distress. And, so many of us could relate to a lot of what his character was going through in that show. So, anybody who's super chat or super sticker, I didn't pull up. I apologize. I didn't want to, distract Robert or distract myself, or I certainly didn't want to interrupt him. So I'm sorry for that. But I do appreciate everything you guys sent. And I'm going to end this show now. And I don't know. I'll talk to, thank you, Gunsmoke. I did put a lot of work into this interview, believe it or not. And you know that I was working on getting Robert on for several days now. So I thank him again. I'm very grateful to him for this. So yeah, Coach Rain, you're right. I am. So I'm going to get off for now. I'm going to end this one, and I might come back on, do a little bit of an after show, maybe talk to you guys about it. Talk about some other things. Maybe if Gunsmoke wants to join me, he can. I'm not sure. I might be back in a little bit. If not, I'll see you tomorrow. But chances are I'll be back on tonight. Thank you, everybody, for showing up. I love you guys. Salute.